Testing.
Let us now settle into a spirit of worship with a moment of quiet, to be followed by the music of Chad Lawson, A Promise Made on Signal Mountain.
This morning we light this chalice for every time we were certain and life nudged us toward a wider truth. We light it in the relief of not needing to be perfect, for the courage to revise our stories, and for the grace that meets us each time we say, I was wrong, and I am learning. May this flame remind us that fallibility is not a flaw, but a doorway into compassion, a doorway into connection, a doorway into becoming. Blessed are the mistaken, for we are still growing.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester, and this is on. Yes. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester, a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. My name is Anna Gregory, and I'm one of your worship associates this morning. We acknowledge that in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, live, and worship on the seized ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people, who survive and remain active as the Nipmuc tribe. For more information about the Nipmuc community, please see the brochure in our foyer. We offer a special welcome to those visiting for the first time. We are delighted that you are here. Please join us in Fellowship Hall following the service for refreshments and conversation. If you have a question about the ministries and programs of this congregation, please ask. Lastly, we invite you to fill out one of the cards found in the pews. These cards can be placed in the offering plate or given to one of the ushers or greeters this morning. For those of you joining us online this morning, we offer you a very special welcome. For safety purposes and so that we might come to know you better, as you are able, please place your name on your video feed. Please take a moment to sign the attendance clipboard that is now being circulated. You are not obligated to sign, thank you, Bruce, but we appreciate the information and will use it for church purposes only. During this service, we offer an opportunity to share a brief personal joy or sorrow. If you would like yours to be read aloud, please print it on an index card in the pew and drop it in the collection plate. For those online, please place the joy or sorrow in the chat, and we will share it during this time in the service. In the foyer are listening devices, large print service programs, and hymnals for those who may find their assistance beneficial. Please see one of our ushers for assistance. I invite you now to turn your technology to worship mode. Finally, please note the announcements in the back of your order of service. There will be time for short verbal announcements following the postlude. We are so glad that you are here and hope that this morning is an opportunity for rest, reflection, and rejuvenation. And finally, the last announcement about the auction. Just a few insights. We're holding steady at over $4,100 raised. Over 40 participants and a total of over 220 bids have been placed. The item with the most bids was Val's Restaurant in Holden. The $100 gift card that went for $100. For those in the service today, you get a special treat. I extended the time of the auction until 2 p.m. today, and any item without a bid is now $20. So there's no bidding on these. They're the buy it now option, but there are about 10 or 11 of these items, such as 2 climbing passes to Central Rock Gym. Those are $20. 1 free month of membership to the Little Gym. That's also $20. VIP tires and service, 7 coupons, walking tours of both Holy Cross and WPI, and a personal consultation for a Paris dream vacation. All these are $20. So if you'd like to bid, do so now until 2 p.m., and then the auction will close. If you're the highest bidder when the auction ends at 2 p.m., you will receive an email to pay, and I will have the gift cards next Sunday for everyone to pick up. And finally, thank you to everyone who placed bids, donated items, and helped me with the auction. It's been a great success. And I'd also like to thank everyone for the outpouring of love and support that I received after my mom passed last week. It was very comforting to have Aaron sit bedside with my mom after she passed with my daughter. So I just thank everyone for the comforting words, cards, and support that you've given me this week. Thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Yes. Welcome, you who arrive today with questions, with convictions, with stories you're still sorting out. Welcome, you who have changed your mind more than once this week, and you who are discovering that certainty is a heavy thing to carry. Here we practice a different way, a way where being wrong is not a source of shame, but a sign of being alive, curious, and willing to grow, and of being human. Here we honor the courage it takes to listen again, to apologize, to begin anew. May this hour upon us to the blessings hidden. May this hour open us to the blessings hidden in our mistakes and to the wisdom that waits on the far side of humility.
Would you please join together in our opening hymn, number 1020, found in your teal hymnals, and welcome our guest pianist this morning, Kathy Nagy. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Please be seated. I want to invite our basket bearers forward, those participants in our religious exploration program that arrive each time we worship with baskets of change for change. This is an ongoing contribution that our youth and children make to the emergency fund of this congregation. If you have change that you would like to contribute, if you'd raise your hand, one of our basket bearers will find you. Oh, dear God. And you can bring them forward. Thank you so much. We're going to send you off to a day full of fun and activities and learning to be with each other and enjoying friendships as we sing together. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you everywhere you may go.
Good morning. My name is Shah Salmi. I would like to read you a poem by Paul Moosberg to express exactly how Brian and I feel about pledging. How true in all time good people can't see. How true and sublime their good could just be. How true in life's grime good people agree. How true with their chime they sing of happy. This thank you decrees to holding the keys of thanking with please to hug good with ease. Good people make haste to help and befriend. Good people are placed with help that they lend. Good people won't waste the love that they tend. Good people are faced with love to defend. This thank you extends where it knows no ends, of thanking my friends where help and love blends. And this poem expresses how we feel about pledging, and because we believe in good people, and we believe in good people like you doing good work. Thank you.
And a message from David and Mara this morning, who are both with our choir singing at our sister congregation, First Unitarian here in Worcester. They write, the new amount that has been pledged is $98,766. So you will see that we are climbing closer. If you have not yet submitted a pledge and you intend to do so, I encourage you to do so as soon as possible. Calls will start being made in the next week or so for those who have not yet pledged but have done so in the past, or for those of you who are newest among us and have indicated a desire to contribute or have contributed this year. This is the way in which the board gets to make a reasonable choice related to our budget coming up. And so any kind of contribution that can be made will assist us in helping to make our financial capacity for next year even more reasonable and real. So thank you for those of you who have already pledged, and I hope that the rest of you will consider doing so in very short order. It was in 44 BC. You remember then. It was yesterday. It had been prophesied to Caesar that he would be assassinated on March 15th, the Ides of March. On his way to a theater in Pompeii, where he would be assassinated, Caesar passed by a seer and joked, well, the Ides of March have come, implying that the prophecy had not been fulfilled. To which the seer, Sperana, replied, aye, they have come, but they have not gone. This meeting is famously dramatized in William Shakespeare's play, Julius Caesar, when a soothsayer warns Caesar to beware of the Ides of March. Caesar was clearly mistaken, but more so, he was boastful in his error. This morning, it's this dynamic of the human condition that is at the heart of my own reflections. To claim both the truth that to be mistaken is to be human, sometimes with devastating consequences, but more so, to be mistaken and to lack humility is disastrous. not only for individuals, but I argue for humanity as a whole. Given the current state of the world, I believe this topic is both timely and important. One of the things that gnaws my soul and often causes my wife to scream at the television is the almost daily onslaught of boasting by our own President of the U.S. and senior staff, almost always about things that those who are informed know are at best inaccurate and at worst outright lies, either of omission or commission. Whether it's about winning the 2020 election or inheriting a stagnant economy or fast rising incomes or no regime change wars or securing $18 trillion in investment or that Tylenol causes autism or you name it. In fact, during his first term, the Washington Post recorded 30,573 false and misleading claims, an average of 21 a day. And when pressed about his previous boasts after they had been clearly debunked, instead of responding with humility and or introspection, what we often witness is a doubling down, insisting that the president was either misquoted or that what was being reported was taken out of context. It's enough to make one believe that 6 years ago we entered an alternate universe where truth and falsehood are mirror images of each other and in separate realities. But the point here, though, is not so much about the reality of our president lying or at best being woefully mistaken. It is that it is a human tendency. And even those that we admire in politics have lied. And as such, can either be a means to stagnate both cognitively or emotionally, or this tendency can be a means to grow and mature. And the difference between these two options is the presence both of humility and the spiritual discipline of not comparing ourselves to each other, boasting, if you will. And on this day, which is, interestingly enough, National whatever you believe or think is mistaken, right? Day, which has no particular origin, interestingly enough. I suspect that it was someone out in cyberspace during COVID that thought this would be a good idea and put it out there, and it has taken hold in some quarters. And it is an opportunity, I think, for people who take this day seriously to contemplate the idea of humility as a human asset, as a human virtue. In their book, The Spirituality of Imperfection, authors Ernst Kuntz and Catherine Ketchum write, as a spiritual experience, humility contains its own unique paradox. Those possessed by it do not realize that they do participate in it, and those who think they possess it most often have no idea what it is. As the Sufi saying suggests, a saint is a saint unless they know that they are one. They tell the story of a rabbi in a frenzy of religious passion rushed in before the ark and fell to his knees and started beating his breast, crying, "I am nobody, I am nobody, I am nobody." The cantor of the synagogue, impressed by this example of spiritual humility, joined the rabbi on his knees, saying, "I am nobody, I am nobody." And the shamus, the custodian, watching from the corner, couldn't restrain himself either. He joined the other two on their knees, calling out, "I am nobody, I am nobody." At which point the rabbi, nudging the cantor with his elbow, pointed to the custodian and says, "Look who thinks he's nobody." Humility, write the authors, is above all honesty. True humility neither exaggerates nor minimizes, but accepts. As Dag Hammarskjöld put it in Markings, humility is just as much the opposite of self-abasement as it is of self-exaltation. To be humble is not to make comparisons. Secure in this reality, they write, the self is neither better nor worse, bigger nor smaller than anything else in the universe. It is nothing, yet at the same time with everything. To be humble is to not make comparisons. The story is told of another rabbi, Akiba Egar, who once sent a note to his shoemaker asking him to return the boots he had been given for repair, and he addressed the shoemaker as follows: to the most holy, reverend, great scholar. The shoemaker, thinking the rabbi was mocking him, was offended and hurried to him to complain. The rabbi's reply was of utmost simplicity. How can you think I meant to mock you? Letters to me are addressed that way all the time. To be humble is not to make comparisons. Then there's the story of a Greek fisherman who once netted a magnificent golden tripod from the deep. Its ownership became a matter of intense international concern. The quarrel was referred to Delphi. Whoever is first in all wisdom, hissed Pythia, to him the tripod belongs. So peace was declared, and the tripod was presented to Thales of Miletus, a philosopher who enjoyed everyone's respect. But Thales passed it off onto a second sage whom he considered wiser than himself, and the second sage passed it on to a third, and so forth, until finally the tripod circled back to Thales, who discreetly gave it to Delphi. To be humble is not to make comparisons. The authors turn to the me first and number one tendency of today in modern narcissism's extolling of these, me first and number one. They write, humility does not necessarily suggest an attitude of me last, although the world it would provide a more appropriate starting point for spirituality, they suggest. What humility does counsel is that such comparisons are dangerous and foolish. They note the problem with both first and last as goals is that both are extremes. AA co-founder Bill W. advised literally thousands of alcoholics, our problem is that we try, even demand, to be all or nothing. Human being in the middle, is to be neither all or nothing. Then there's that ancient Christian legend when God created the angels to worship and serve him, and then after he had begun the creation of our world, but before the creation of human beings, God granted the angels a vision not only of humankind, but of Christ as well, and God commanded the angels to serve humans and to worship Christ. To the angels, this was a strange command, that they, pure spirit, should defer to beings lesser than themselves, creatures mingled with matter. I love that. We are creatures mingled with matter. The story goes now, it happened that all of the angels God created, the most beautiful and most brilliant was Lucifer, the light bearer. This greatest of angels, immersed in his own brilliance and enamored of his own beauty, refused God's commandment, declaring, I will never serve. And so Lucifer and the angels who followed him were cast out from heaven, becoming the bad angels termed devils. It was pride that changed the angels. It is humility that make human beings angels, observed St. Augustine in commenting on this popular early Christian story. The ancient mythic story of Lucifer's rebellion reminds that the tradition of spiritual wisdom sees in me first the original of all sin, the root of all devastation and deviation and distortion of our true being. All of this idea of true sin came to mind this week as I met with colleagues and planned the service that I will do at 1 p.m. this afternoon for Worcester's Outdoor Church. That includes a well-known passage from the Gospel of John in the 9th chapter, where it is said that as Jesus walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." And when he had said this, he spat on the ground, and he made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. Then he washed, and he came back and was able to see. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a number of issues with this passage. The first one is with the disciples, right, who want to know who's to blame for this person being blind. And this is a theology that needs to be corrected in every sense of the word, in every place that it occurs. The idea that disability or difference, right, or illness or whatever is the cause of human sin. I can tell you, as one who has served as a chaplain, my worst nemesis in hospitals were not people other than my colleagues, who often would walk into the ICU unit with someone who was terribly ill and stand at the bedside and say, "You're here, because you're sin." And I would be called in by enraged nurses who would say, "You need to go fix that, and fix that right now." And I'm glad they understood that fixing it was probably a good thing, right? But that's the kind of judgment that we continue to hear, and I hear it echoed in so many corners. Not necessarily in religious language, there's political language that does the same thing, right? And so we hear this, but what I love about this chapter is that Jesus doesn't take the bait, right? He dismantles the idea that suffering is punishment or that disability is somehow a moral failure, right? And here's the real theological crux of this. The divine does not send suffering to teach lessons. I remember this wonderful passage from Harold Kushner's old book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Any of you know that book, right? And there is this wonderful tale in that book where Rabbi Kushner's on the radio, and a caller says to Rabbi Kushner, "Why can't you accept the fact that God took your son in order for you to write this remarkable book?" Right? And Kushner says, "My God is not a murderer. My God does not cause suffering in order to accomplish something else. Suffering does not have that meaning." Right? Suffering in and of itself does not have meaning, but as meaning-making people, we can often come to the reality of our suffering and out of that experience derive meaning that can carry us forward. But that does not mean that the origin of suffering was the capacity we have to find meaning and the purpose of suffering having anything other than the fact that we are biologically based human beings and that we suffer trauma because of that nature. Disability is not a defect to be explained away by something else, right? And that the real problem that I think that the prophet points to in this chapter is the community's assumptions, not the person's blindness. In fact, the entire passage is really about challenging the norm, the social norm of the day that continued to exclude those people who were different, who were ill, who needed to be separated in order to not infect the rest of the community as though they were contagious because of some failing. And then what I love about this is that Jesus reaches down, spits on the ground, makes a mud pack, puts it on the eyes, right? There are all kinds of conversations that have occurred over the years about, well, his spit must have had something in it that took away whatever was causing the blindness, right? I mean, it must have done something physical. There's a scientific explanation for this, which betrays the idea that this is probably a parable about Jesus, to use John Dominic Crossan's terminology, and that what we're really talking about is Jesus pointing to the fact that we are stardust and dirt. It also harkens back to some of the apocryphal stories, Christian apocryphal stories of Jesus' infancy, where Jesus is described as going out and sitting beside a stream or a river and doing the same thing, spitting on the ground and making clay models of birds and animals and then bringing them to life and then flying away. Right? This idea of grounding us in this reality, right? That we are dust, and that we need to remind ourselves that we're part of creation, not separate from it. We are not an abomination. We are a co-creative entity. And Jesus is demonstrating that by the way that he cares for this man. So Jesus' act is political as well as theological. He challenge us in this moment by systems who define who is in and who is out. The light that he talks about, I am the light of the world, right? I think that also gets misquoted all the time. It's not that he as an individual is the light of the world. It is he in what he is enacting in this moment is demonstrating light in the world, right? Jesus is light because he is compassion. And he's not pointing to the specificity of his own soul and saying, I am the only light in the world. You know? He's saying light is possible when you engage in acts of compassion and humility. Light here is not a doctrine associated with the prophet. It is an embodied truth. To walk in the light is to see others without stigma, to refuse the narratives of blame, and to participate in healing work. So it's no wonder, given this context of dust and mud and saliva, that the words human and humor and humility all have the same root, right? The ancient Indo-European hom, best translated into English as humus, right? The authors of The Spirituality of Imperfection tell the story of a classroom incident that occurred at Rutgers University, the summer school for alcoholic studies several years ago, where an instructor wrote the words human, humor, and humility on the blackboard and then turned to the class, a motley mixture of degreed professionals and would-be alcoholism counselors, and who were mainly recovering individuals from all imaginable walks of life, and then challenged them. You all know what humus is, don't you? In the back of the room, they note, draped over various parts of 3 chairs, a sprawling, wrangly man about 6.5 feet tall, weighing about 250 very solid pounds. An observer might have suggested that this student hailed from the great state of Texas, dressed as he was in cowboy boots and a 10-gallon hat, and wearing a name tag cut into the shape of a large star that read Tex. In a deep drawl, Tex rumbled his answer, "Yeah, Doc, worm shit." text had a point. The dictionary describes humus as brown or black substance resulting from a partial decay of plant and animal matter. Although the role of worms and their excrement in facilitating the activities of soil microorganisms is a disputed point in agricultural sciences, Tex's spontaneous outburst helped his classmates and their teacher grasp the connections between the idea of Becker, who said, a God who craps is what defines human beings, right? And another, Anderson's, human beings are a very special worm. Humor, humility, humanity, we cannot work on one without working on the others, write the authors. We cannot have one without having others, right? To attend to any of these three begins the process of bringing us, they note, home. Home to ourselves, to our mixed upness, and to our human being. You know what home is, don't you? Home is that place, they write, where you can be yourself and accept yourself as both good and bad, beast and angel, saint and sinner. Home is the place where you can laugh and cry, where one can find some peace within all the chaos and confusion, where one is accepted and indeed cherished by others precisely because of our very mixed-upness. Home is that place, they write, where we belong, where we fit precisely because of our very unfittingness. Humility allows us to find the fittingness of our own imperfection, because the acceptance of both andness implies the acceptance of our imperfection as imperfection rather than the claim to find in some very specialness. Humility is the foundation and the keystone of any spirituality of imperfection. Such spirituality is first and foremost freeing, as a joyous Hasidic tale reminds us of a king who visited a prison and talked to prisoners. Each asserted their innocence except one who confessed to theft. The king responded, "Throw out this scoundrel," exclaimed the king. He will corrupt the innocents. Let's corrupt the innocents, shall we? And let's remember that we're made of humus, soil and stardust, of worm work and wonder, a holy mixture that never quite settles. We are human because we are unfinished, not because we are incomplete, and not because we've sinned. Humble because we are not above the earth, humorous because sometimes the only honest prayer is a laugh that cracks us open. And into this earthly truth walks those who kneel in the dust, who refuse the old stories of blame, and who see people in the world called broken and say, this too, this is where the divine's work is born. Light does not shame the soil, it warms it. Light does not expose us to condemnation, it reveals the seeds already stirring. Light does not demand perfection, it invites awakening. So, beloved, can we go forth as a people of humus and light today? Glad to be made of what returns to the earth, glad to be held by a love that sees through our mud and our brilliance and calls all of it worthy. May we walk with courage to see and to be seen, to heal and to be healed, to laugh at our mixed-upness, and to rise again and again and again into the light that restores us to one another. Amen, and blessed be. You want to hear some good news? The auction has been extended until 2 p.m. this afternoon. And I want to thank, as a part of our good news, Anna Gregory for her extraordinary work on this effort. I also want to thank all of those who put such effort into the coffee house last week, those who performed, those who were present. I want to thank Kathleen Nagy for stepping in as our choir and our music director or at First Unitarian this morning. So many ways that people have stepped up, those of you who have participated in all of this. This is all good news. And so I invite us to settle into that, if you will, and remember that it is because of us that this place continues to thrive, and what we contribute as we partake in an offering is symbolic of that continuing effort. So I invite you to give until it makes you feel as good as you just indicated. And if you would like to contribute online using our digital platform, you can text 508-231-5335 and follow the instructions on the screen if it's your first time, or indicate thereafter how much you'd like to contribute. This time our morning offering will be received. or in the work of our hands in the days that have transpired or in the prospect of days to come, joys and sorrows that touch us deeply and are given another measure of meaning because of our capacity to share them in the midst of a company that claims us as a co-journeyer. So I invite those of you who have joys or sorrows this day to form lines on either side of the sanctuary, to come and speak briefly into the microphone, first telling us who you are, so that those using our auditory enhancement devices might also participate in this important ritual, and then to light a candle if you so desire. For those of you who are here online, I would reiterate, we welcome your joys or sorrows today. Please place them in the chat, preceded by the words, please read, so that they can be found quickly, and we will make certain to share them during this time in our service. their joys or sorrows to be shared today. It's okay. Yeah, you can have it on.
Hi, I'm Cheryl J, and I have to share the biggest joy in my life. It may be the best thing that ever happened to me. It may be the best thing that ever happened to me, and I have to honor it because 68 years ago, Bruce Lachey was born. Being married to this man and having him as my life partner is the biggest blessing in my life and comes in a very small package.
Ooh.
Good morning. My name's Jordan. We are new here. Normally my wife Abby and our daughter Haven are with us, but Haven is homesick today, so Abby's home with her. We started coming here February 22nd, and the reason I remember that date is I'll tell you guys in a second, but about 4.5 months ago, my job was terminated, and I have been looking for employment pretty much ever since until we came here. And we heard two people talk about how they had received new jobs that week. And being that our first session here, people shared those joys, gave me more hope than I had had recently. The job market right now is not great. And 2 days later, on February 24th, after we made a Facebook post on the Watch You Chat Facebook group, someone reached out saying, hey, our team is looking to bring on a project manager, project coordinator type personality. We would love to bring you in for an interview. And 15 days later, I got a job offer as an engagement manager. Thank you, appreciate it. I feel like I'm young, I'm 28 years old, really early into my career. And I feel like I've been going job to job without really building a career. And this feels like the place where that career is going to get built. And I feel like I'm finally taking a true step forward as not just a professional, but as an adult and what I'm supposed to be doing rather than just going job to job. So this is a really, really big step for me in my life, and getting to share that here and knowing that first session gave me that hope to get to where I am today. Really exciting. And I start tomorrow. So back to work.
Hi, my name is Laura. I have two grandsons. One that I took guardianship over, and one I did not. He had a 5-hour cranium surgery because his bones fused too soon. And can I tell you what I visited him yesterday. He's got an incision from ear to ear. And he was playing with the nurse's hair when they were trying to pull his catheters out. He was laughing and giggling, and it just, looking at him, his eyes are swollen shut, just puts in perspective, like so many little things are little things. If this little man can withstand that and is laughing through the whole thing, I'm doing all right.
Hi, my name is Lindsay, and I have a sorrow to share. My father-in-law passed away this week. He had been, Brian's dad had been in hospice for the last 4 months, well, we got to spend an awful lot of time with him, and that was great. It wasn't great. The last couple of weeks were really hard. My kids have been lucky. My dad passed when I was 1, but my mom remarried before my children were born. And as far as they know, they've had 4 grandparents their whole lives, so this is the first for them. And I realized that he was really a father to me. I met him when I was 21, and there wasn't someone who was more proud of things that we had accomplished. So think of us. This week there'll be services for him at the Catholic Church in Harvard, so we'll be doing that this week. So keep us in your prayers. Thanks.
Good morning. I want to share. It's definitely joy, but it has to do with my a feeling of the wonder of the universe and timing. Don't know how many of you have had amazing experiences of serendipity, but this is one. On March 18, 2004, my mother passed away. She was in her 99th year. The circumstances were that I had been going to, as a former French student and someone who studied in South High School and lived in France, I became a Francophile. I love to study and travel around France. And I was making annual trips maybe twice a year in the 90s and 02s and zeros. And I used to send my itinerary to where my mother lived in Hale House in Boston and where she had assisted living. And just in case something happened to me, I had my details and all the count where to get a hold of me or whatever. And in 2004, I started 3 trips to towns in northern France where I made a pilgrimage to visit places my father worked at when he was in his teens, and never spoke about it. So they were magical excursions for me. And on March 18, the Luxembourg Garden was full of blossoms and people and men in suits reading papers at 4 p.m., delighting in the weather. And my flight across the ocean, I took these amazing pictures of an amazing landscape of Iceland with its nothing but white and aqua curves and landscape. That's Iceland. No, I'm sorry, Greenland, as of note lately. And I got home, and at 8:30, I opened up my suitcase, and on the floor, and I got the call saying my mother had passed. And she waited for me to do my research on my father, her husband, and before she breathed her last breath. And this just says to me, I have a few stories like this, but this was of a major magnitude. I don't know how much you believe in serendipity or the forces, but this to me is a big spiritual event, and I just want to share it because it is to me amazing. Thank you.
Dawn? Let us be in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, source of our inner and outermost being, we come together this day in order to discover once again the power of our deep connectedness to you, to each other, to those in our spheres of influence and our spheres of love, to the earth itself. Mindful that we are both stardust and light. Help us this day to remember the importance of our connectedness to generations before, mindful that the depth of our grief at the loss of those we love, it bespeaks the depth of our love. Help us to be mindful of those ways in which the universe connects and collides and provides us with moments of insight, meaning, awareness, and celebration. Be with us as we continue to companion those who are in need of health and wholeness and who remind us that part of healing is play. We would also be mindful of the year turning and coming around to those days when we remember our arrival on this planet and those who have helped make our lives worth the journey. For all of this, for all of that which has gone said and that which has been unsaid, we give great and abiding thanks this day. Amen, and blessed be. As mistakes go, one of them is, I think that the piece that we just heard Matthew Johnson played was not of his own making, but that of Ola Yellow. So for those of you who mark that, I wanted to make that correction. Would you please join together in the litany that is inserted with your order of service? For times when we were certain and life opened us to something truer. For the moments when our assumptions cracked open and compassion rushed in. For the times we spoke too quickly and another's courage helped us listen more deeply. For the histories we inherit and the emerging truths that call us to repair and begin again. For every mistake that softened our hearts and every correction that widened our vision. May our fallibility be a guide, our humility be a blessing, and our commitment to growth a promise we make to ourselves and each other. Would you please turn to hymn number 1057, found again in our teal hymnal, and rise in body or in spirit. Lifted up, love bless your way. Moonlight, starlight, guide your journey into peace. And the light brightness of day. Oh, lifted up, love bless your way. Moonlight, starlight, guide your journey into peace and the brightness of Go forth in the freedom of people who no longer need to have it all figured out. Go with the humility to be corrected, the courage to change, and the tenderness to forgive yourself and others. Go knowing that every misstep can become a teacher and every misunderstanding an invitation to deeper truth, every mistake a seed of compassion. May you walk lightly, learn gladly, and return again and again to the sacred work of becoming. Amen, and blessed be. Please be seated.
Go.
Are there any short announcements?
Fiber Arts is hosting coffee hour, and I want to share that I just got asked, what do these hats mean? I've been standing up here making jokes trying to get people to come make the hats. They're Melt the Ice hats. They are to stand against fascism. And we're trying to get a bunch of them made and distributed for the folks that want one for the No Kings rally, which is in 2 weeks. We're never going to get that done. Sherry Lynn came up with a wonderful alternative. You can wear this if you're not a hat wearer. All I ask is that you come to me, and as soon as they're gone, they're gone. We're hoping that folks who were gifted a hat will donate some money to the Ministerial Discretionary Fund in honor of that, so that that money can be distributed to folks that need it because they've been impacted by fascism. Okay, thank you. It's not as brief as usual.
Book discussion group next Sunday in the lounge about Blueprint for Revolution, about how do we work to make things better. You don't have to have read the book, though it is a good book.
Remind everyone that next Sunday is our annual youth group service, which is the most popular service of the year. I know who my competition is, and so what I mean by that is come early because there are going to be very few seats, right? And I hope that you all have an extraordinary time next Sunday. This is one of not only the favorites of this congregation, but it is the thing that our youth often remember most about their time, is when they got to share that with us. So hope that we'll see you again next Sunday, and in the meantime, I hope that you continue to be well. Reach out if you need anything. Once again, worship in this place has come to an end. Our service continues next with refreshments and conversation.